Hi everyone, this is Becky from My Creative Life. Today I'll be working once again in my recollections journal. You can see here. I pulled it out and turned to one of the craft pages. I have been avoiding these pages, but today I decided why not go ahead and try to work with it and see what I can come up with. So I also grabbed some of the items from my most recent haul that I've been loving, which would be the linen tapes by Tim Holtz. If you know of any other linen tapes available out there, please let me know in the comments. I've really been enjoying using these. They add a bit of texture to your layout and it feels a lot different than working with washi tape, in my opinion. So I'm really loving them. Now, here I'm going to add them to the background there, and you'll notice I do not line them up nice and straight. I will stagger the strips a bit, and also I cut the strips apart at different lengths. Now once I started adding these to the background, I left a little bit of space in between each one, and I also decided why not pull in some of the wallpaper scraps as well, also from Tim Holtz. And I will go ahead and link all of these items I'm using today down in the description box if you wanted to check that out. So here I pulled out this floral piece here, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it down even more because you can see there it's a bit wide. Now the pieces that I'm cutting off there, I'm not gonna discard that. I will also use that on the background. I am gonna go ahead and continue right now adding these strips and the linen tape strips to the background. I am not going to go all the way over towards the left side. I will leave an empty space where I will add my focal point in just a little bit. I'm really loving how these strips look on this craft paper background, and leaving those spaces in between, I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of shading now using some Walnut stain distress ink. So I'm just using a small little sponge here just to get in between each one of these strips, and I'm going to add that in. Now I will also go ahead and ink the edges as well using that same color. And then I'll add a little bit of color on the craft space where there isn't any strips. So right here, I'm just using some vintage photo distress ink and pushing back some of that floral because there's a little bit of a bright white on those floral strips that I added in, and I wanted it to be toned down a tiny bit. And this is where I'll go in and add a little bit of color to that craft area where there isn't any strips, and it's not very noticeable on the camera, but you can see it a lot better in person. And I just wanted to sort of blend in the edges of those strips onto the rest of that craft paper. So next up, I'm going to work on my focal point, and I pulled out some magazine sheets that I have. I usually go through my magazines, anything that look like I will work on an art journal layout. I will go ahead and tear it out from the magazine and save it. You can see I pulled out one there on the right side of the screen that has lots of red items on there. I figure I can use that on this layout. It goes really nicely with the red on the background. And I also went into my Dylusions Collage Sheets and pulled out some pieces, I will go ahead and add the information down below as to which set these pieces are from. Now you saw there that I cut off the star that the girl is sitting on, and I'm going to use this piece from the magazine instead to have her sit on that red chest right there instead. And I'm just trimming off the edge right there. Now, once I add her on, I will go ahead and do a little bit of stenciling. Now, this is going to be really bright white compared to everything else on this layout. But once it sits on there, I will go in later on and add a little bit of vintage photo on there just to tone down that really bright white. I'm using here this hexagon design Tim Holtz stencil with some textured paste with my Nuvo spatula, and I'm just adding it to 3 different areas on this background. So now I'm going in with my Posca Paint Pen in black. I'm going to outline my girl and her dress. And then I'll use my white Posca Paint Pen in the extra fine tip and add a little bit of detail to her dress. And like I said before, all of these items that I'm using will be linked in the description box below. Now you may also notice I change out her eyes. I use some of the Dylusions washi strips I have with just eyes on there. I use one of the eyes to add on my girl instead of the one that was on there before, and I like this one a lot better. So now I am adding a little bit more shading using some black soot distress ink, and that's really small dauber there, the sponge dauber. And then I'll go in and I am gonna add some more stenciling because I had this little area close to her leg. I was not liking that it's a bit empty, so I'm gonna add a little bit more stenciling there, some texture paste. Once I add that in, you'll see I need to gradually bring it down towards the edge of my page. So I'm just adding a little bit more in just to have a nice fading out of that texture paste there towards the edge of the page. And I will also go in and add a little bit more to the top as well. Now I will use my spatula and just smush out a little bit towards the edge, and some of it had dried already, but I will just use some more texture paste there on my spatula and add a little bit more smushing to the edges of that stenciling. So now I am gonna go ahead and add a word phrase to my background, and I pulled out some of these stickers from Tim Holtz. I've had these forever, slowly using them up, and I pulled out 2 here. You can see I'm also removing the back of these word chips because I do not want to add a lot of bulk to my journal. And I decided here to use just this one long strip, but I will cut it apart. I will use my art glitter glue, adhere them to my background, and then I'll use some of the vintage photo distress ink with my sponge dauber here and just tone those down a bit. It's a bit bright, that bright white, so I'll go ahead and just push them back a little bit using that ink. Next up, I will use my extra fine Posca Paint Pen in black to add a little bit of outlining around each one of those words. So here I'm just going to finish up my layout, and then I'll give you guys a close-up look as well as some still shots, and I really love how this one turned out. Now, on a previous layout where I used these linen strips, they're more pushed back onto my background, into my background I should say, and you just see them as a little bit of a detail peeking through, but here you can definitely see those beautiful strips a lot more, and I really love how it looks. So I hope you guys enjoyed the process today, and if you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up before you leave, and don't forget, check out my description box and you'll find all of the links to all of the products I used today on this layout, as well as links to my Instagram where you can see all of my projects that I've created so far. And check out my channel here. If you like what you see, I hope you consider subscribing today. So I want to thank you all for watching, and until my next video, bye.